It's just money, Evan said, smiling like I was the embarrassing one. 3 weeks later, I sat at his wedding reception with $214.83 left in my savings account, while he laughed at the head table under gold lights and white roses I had apparently helped pay for. My mother lifted her glass and said, to Evan, who finally became the responsible man his father always knew he could be. People clapped. I didn't. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Across the room, Evan noticed my still hands and smirked, like he already knew I wouldn't make a scene. That had always been his power over me. He messed up, I absorbed it, and the family called it love. Then my phone buzzed. A bank alert. Another withdrawal attempt. 10 minutes ago. From Evan's phone. I looked down at the gift box in my lap. Everyone thought it held a present. Evan had joked earlier, let me guess, another budgeting lecture. He was close. Inside were the bank records he thought I would keep hidden. I had spent 8 years building that savings account, picking up extra shifts as a physical therapist, skipping vacations, eating leftovers in my car between appointments. That money was supposed to be my condo deposit, my way out. Evan knew that. He also knew he still had emergency access from years ago, back when I helped him crawl out of another financial disaster. I forgot to remove it. He didn't. At first I told myself maybe it was panic, wedding vendors demanding money, one stupid decision, one temporary mistake. But then came the honeymoon upgrade, the designer tux charge, the private whiskey tasting, more charges after he swore he had stopped. Around me cousins whispered that I looked bitter. My aunt muttered she could at least smile, it's her brother's day. The host tapped the microphone. Now we'll open the floor for family stories and special messages. Evan stood, straightened his jacket and began, family is about sacrifice. I stood too. His smile vanished when he saw the folder in my hand. Then I walked toward the microphone. The room parted politely as I walked toward the stage. A few relatives smiled at me encouragingly, expecting some emotional sister of the groom speech. Someone near the bar even whispered, finally, maybe she's over whatever mood she's been in all night. Evan kept one hand on the microphone. Dina, he said quietly through a tight smile, what exactly are you doing? The panic in his eyes dragged me straight back to 4 months earlier, when he first started calling me almost every night. Just temporary help, he kept saying. Wedding costs exploded. I had already spent years bailing him out of failed business ideas, a sneaker resale scheme, a podcast studio, a food truck that never opened. Every time he promised he'd changed. So this time I told him no. No loans, Evan. He sighed dramatically over the phone. Dad would have helped me. That line always worked on my mother. Sometimes it almost worked on me too. Then came the morning I tried to transfer money for my condo deposit. Insufficient funds. I remember staring at my banking app in my car outside the realtor's office, refreshing the screen over and over like the numbers would magically return. They didn't. I drove straight to Evan's apartment. When he opened the door, he didn't even look surprised. You used my account, I asked. It's not like I stole it, he said immediately. You weren't using the money right now. I actually laughed because it sounded insane hearing him say it out loud. That was my entire savings. Relax, after the wedding Claire's parents are helping with some costs, I'll fix it. You took it without asking. He leaned against the doorway like I was exhausting him. Do you really want to ruin my wedding over numbers on a screen? Later, my mother took his side before I even finished explaining. Families support each other during important moments, she snapped. You're acting jealous. I almost reported him then. But I hesitated. Because he kept promising repayment. Because relatives kept calling me cold. Because some part of me still believed he would stop. Instead, I started gathering records quietly. And the more I found, the worse it got. Charges from luxury vendors, transfers after he promised the account was untouched, expenses that had nothing to do with emergencies. Back in the ballroom, Evan stared at the folder in my hands. His confident wedding smile was completely gone now. Into the microphone, barely above a whisper, he said, "Dina, what exactly are you doing?" I stopped beside the host and looked directly at Evan. "Actually," I said calmly, "I brought something important for the couple." The room gave a few scattered laughs. The host smiled awkwardly and reached for the gift box. "Well, let's hear it." Evan stepped forward immediately. "Dina, not now." Claire frowned at him. "Why are you acting weird?" I opened the box and handed the host a stack of printed screenshots. His smile faded as he flipped through them. "Oh," he muttered. The ballroom quieted. He glanced at me uncertainly. "Are these bank statements?" "Read the highlighted parts." Evan moved fast. "Give me those." But the host had already looked down and read the first line aloud before realizing what was happening. "Transfer from Dina Moore savings account, $12,000. A nervous ripple moved through the room. The host stopped, clearly uncomfortable, but then his eyes caught another highlighted section. And before Evan could grab the papers, he accidentally read that too. "Move it from the savings," he read slowly. "She won't notice until after the honeymoon." Complete silence. Claire turned toward Evan. "What is he talking about?" Evan forced out a laugh that sounded painful. "It's out of context." I finally spoke into the microphone. "You emptied my savings account for this wedding." Gasps spread across the tables. My mother stood halfway from her chair. "Dina, stop this right now." But people were already staring at Evan differently. Not with admiration anymore. With calculation. Claire reached for the documents. "Let me see." Evan tried to block her. "Claire, seriously, she's twisting things." "She's twisting bank records." Claire snatched the papers from his hands. As she flipped through them, her face changed more with every page. Luxury floral upgrades. Private whiskey tastings. Designer suit payments. 5-star honeymoon charges. Not emergency expenses. Not temporary borrowing. A performance funded with stolen money. One of Evan's groomsmen quietly stepped away from the head table. Claire's father stood up slowly. "How much money are we talking about?" I looked at him but didn't answer yet. Because Evan jumped in first. "She gave me access months ago," he said quickly. "She knew I might need help." "But I gave you emergency authorization 2 years ago," I replied, "and I have the call recordings where you admitted using it without permission." The room erupted into overlapping voices. Then Claire stopped turning pages. She stared at one specific transfer record. Slowly, she lifted her eyes toward Evan. "Why?" she asked carefully. "Are there transfers from our wedding account into your personal account?" Evan lunged for the paperwork. "Give me that," he snapped. Claire jerked the documents away before he could grab them. Chairs scraped across the ballroom as guests started talking over one another. "What wedding account?" "He stole from his sister." "Wait, there's more." I stepped closer to the microphone before Evan could take control again. "The withdrawals didn't stop after vendors were paid," I said. "That's when I realized this wasn't panic spending." Evan pointed at me furiously. "You're trying to humiliate me." "No," I replied. "I'm explaining why my savings disappeared." Claire flipped through the records again, faster this time. "There are dozens of transfers," she whispered. "Because I was moving money around temporarily," Evan shot back. "That's all." I shook my head. "You kept draining the account in smaller amounts after you promised you were done, and several payments never matched any vendor invoices." Claire's father walked toward the stage. "Evan," he said sharply, "answer her." Instead, Claire pulled out her phone. At first she looked irritated, then confused, then completely pale. "My parents' contribution account," she said quietly. She refreshed the screen again. "No." Evan froze. Claire looked up at him slowly. "Money is missing from this too." The ballroom exploded. You touched her account too. What the hell is wrong with you? My mother rushed toward the stage, panic written all over her face. Can we please handle this privately? Evan turned on her instantly. I am handling it. But nobody believed him anymore. The pieces were connecting too fast. His refusal to let Claire talk directly to vendors. His obsession with controlling all payments himself. The withdrawal attempt during the reception. Every excuse suddenly sounded rehearsed. I pulled another sheet from the folder. I already spoke to the bank this morning, I said. They verified the device logs and transfer timestamps. Evan's face lost all color. The host, still holding part of the paperwork, looked down again accidentally. And then he read another message aloud. Once the wedding's over, he said slowly, nobody will care where the money came from. Claire stared at Evan for 3 long seconds. Then she slid off her wedding ring and placed it on the table beside him. No dramatic speech. No yelling. Just silence. Several of her relatives stood immediately and followed her away from the ballroom. Evan's friends suddenly couldn't look at him. Claire's father stopped beside me before leaving. How much did he take from you? This time I answered, $87,000. The entire room went dead quiet. Even Evan looked shocked hearing it out loud. Then, before he could say another word, 2 hotel security staff entered the ballroom and approached the stage. Mr. Moore, one of them said carefully, we need to speak with you privately. Nobody in the ballroom moved as hotel security stopped beside Evan. For the first time all night he looked small. Not confident, not charming, just trapped. This is insane, he muttered. You're all overreacting. But nobody rushed to defend him anymore. Claire's father stepped back toward the stage. Did you steal from my daughter too? Evan opened his mouth, then closed it again. That silence answered everything. Over the next hour, the truth came apart piece by piece in front of both families. Evan had been drowning in gambling debt for over a year. Sports betting apps, cryptocurrency losses, loans he kept rolling into bigger loans while pretending everything was fine. The wedding wasn't just about getting married. It was a perfect image. A way to look successful enough that nobody questioned his finances, while expensive gifts and cash came in from Claire's wealthy relatives. And he had counted on one thing more than anything else. Me staying quiet. He knew I trusted him enough not to constantly monitor the emergency account access I'd given him years earlier. At first he only took smaller amounts, then bigger ones. When wedding costs exploded, he panicked. But instead of scaling back, he upgraded everything. The luxury honeymoon suite. The premium liquor package. The designer tuxedo. He believed appearances would save him. And once the money disappeared, he started stealing from the wedding accounts too, planning to quietly replace everything afterward before anyone noticed. I was going to pay it back, he said finally, voice cracking. I looked directly at him. You kept stealing after you said that. Claire stood near the ballroom exit listening to everything with tears running silently down her face. Her mother held her arm while her father spoke to the hotel manager and bank representatives over the phone. My mother sat collapsed in a chair near the dance floor. For months she had blamed me, accused me of jealousy, defended every excuse Evan made. Now she stared at the paperwork in her lap like she didn't recognize her own son. Around the room, relatives who spent the night whispering about my attitude suddenly avoided eye contact completely. Nobody called me dramatic anymore. Within days, Claire annulled the marriage and joined the fraud complaints involving the wedding accounts. The bank investigation confirmed unauthorized transfers between multiple accounts tied to Evan's devices. Several of his remaining accounts were frozen. Some relatives begged me not to press further. Don't destroy the family over money, one uncle told me. I answered the same way every time. He already did that. The investigation helped recover part of the stolen savings through fraud protections and insurance claims. Not all of it came back immediately, but enough did. Enough for the condo deposit. I had postponed the day my account was emptied. Months later, I stood alone in my own apartment, holding a new set of keys, while movers carried in the last boxes. Quiet. No excuses. No family pressure. Just mine. Most of my relatives still kept their distance after the wedding disaster, but now it happened on my terms instead of theirs. One afternoon, Claire sent me a short message. Thank you for exposing him before it got worse. I read it twice before locking my phone. As for Evan, the fraud investigation followed him long after the wedding ended. Friends disappeared. Professional contacts stopped returning calls. The story spread faster than he could control it. And for the first time in his life, nobody stepped in to rescue him. I eventually realized exposing him at the wedding was never really about revenge. It was about finally refusing to protect someone who kept hurting me. The last time Evan called me selfish, I was locking the door to the home I bought with the future he tried to steal.